All right, well, let's go ahead and get started. There's a few people coming in slowly. So, happy January, happy New Year. Prodigal Inc. is here. We've got all of our regulars. Check out this big cup of coffee that I have. Um, two of our new island neighbors, Michael and Santosa, brought us giant mugs, which is great because these are really hard to find in Japan. It's really hard to find a nice, gigantic American-sized coffee mug. So even though we have a house full of thousands of dishes, these are actually very useful and hard to come by. So thank you to Michael and Santosa for the nice gift that they brought from
Uh, Thailand.
Thailand. Yeah. All right. Oh, Marcus is here. Hey, Marcus. Oh, I don't know what that means. So I married is that a married an axe murderer movie joke? Wait, so I married oh, yes. Oh, yes, the big coffee mug. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Sorry, it took me a minute. I obviously haven't drank my big coffee yet, so I wasn't, quick enough on the joke, but yes. So I married an axe murderer. Great one. Classic. Okay. All right. Starting off the year. A little flustered this morning, just getting into it. I always get nervous at the beginning of the live streams, and then by the time things roll on a little bit, feel a little bit better. How are you doing, Evie?
Great. Fantastic.
You're always great.
It's true.
It's true. It's true. All right. Well, so this is going to be our 2026 forecast. We had a nice little wrap up to the year last year with our last live stream. And so this one, we're focusing on the future, what's going to happen this year, what's going to happen in the next 3 years, and how are we going to meet those visa goals. So, to start off with, I've got my notes here. So, we're going to first look back at January so far. January's not over. We still have a week of work left to do in January, but so far, quick recap of the month of January. Starting with honey, we got down to 50 honey jars out of 1,266, but 37 of those jars were the extra large size. Um, Now, the extra large size is actually our most popular size sold on our website, but of course, the bigger the size, the slower the sales. So our smalls and mediums were by far the most popular, and those sold out completely. So I started collecting some of those extra large jars from the Michinoeki Farmers Market, and I brought
Oh,
them home
oh, hello.
and split them up into smaller jars. So we went from 50 jars to having 98 jars. So now we have small, medium, and extra large, and they're all in stock. Both flavors, wildflower and citrus honey, are in stock back on the website for shipping within Japan. And of course, they are out at the Michinoeki on the shelves. So we actually, hey, Basso, Marcus is saying hi to you. Marcus says hi to Boss. Oh, you're sitting. He's sitting for you, Marcus. I don't know. There. Let's see him back there. Bosco. There. Say hi to Marcus, Bosco.
Let's go.
So I'm adjusting my current honey forecast and saying that I think we will, if I continue splitting the extra large up into the smaller sizes, I think we're going to be sold out by April, which will still be under 1 year from harvest. So that is, of course, a good goal to have. So that's my new adjusted goal, and I'm pretty sure that we'll be able to meet that. The guest house, looking back, December was solid, which was a surprise. It was above our minimum monthly income needed in order to break even. So December was great. December, our first 2 years was a slow month. So we had a solid December, and then January was decent. So it was under our minimum needed to break even, but December was solid and January was decent. And how that relates to looking back at years 1 and 2, because now we are into year 3. If I combine December and January, it was 5 times higher than our first year, and it was 2.5 times higher than our second year, so that's pretty good. I did not expect December to be such a good month this year, but it really was.
Tourism's been picking up all over
Definitely.
the island.
Yep. And of course, February will be 0 because we are closed. Our guests last night, they were great last guests to have. Our last couple of groups have been super friendly and chatty. But our guests that we hosted last night and have not yet checked out, they will be our last guests for the next 5 weeks that we're closed. Um, they are a family. So the lady who booked is she booked with her sister's husband, her husband, who's Australian. It's a Japanese family, and her mother for her 91st birthday. So they came here for her mother's 91st birthday last night, and they had dinner at Garaku, and they picked up some surprise slices of birthday cake from nearby Country Time, a restaurant here that also makes adorable cakes. And I think that's our first birthday party, let alone a 91st birthday party, so that was great. We visited with them for quite a while before they went off to dinner and then the onsen. So, sort of a good way to, put a temporary break on guests, and now, we're in full-on renovation mode. So looking back at January, consultation was still 0 as expected. So
Congratulations, Japanese government. You defeated the evil foreign business investors.
yeah, I'm in a couple of groups. I mean, I don't know how it's actually going, but I'm in a couple of groups with other people discussing the business manager visa who are on the business manager visa or who are um, there's some immigration lawyers and people in the profession in these group chats, and just nobody's applying right now. The numbers have just plummeted, even for the startup visa. Now, of course, none of that's official. That's all hearsay from the group chat, but uh, we are definitely seeing that in our little teeny tiny corner of the internet where we had quite a few people contacting us for our consultation to just discuss our startup visa experience, discuss their business plans, um, wherever it was in Japan that they wanted to begin a startup. Um, just as soon as the news was announced, it's just dropped to 0 and it's stayed there. So very interesting interesting time in Japan. I will be very curious to see how all of this is going to play out over the next 3 years.
Oh, and I just heard yesterday that they revised the Japanese fertility rate number, which happens yearly, and the Japanese fertility rate is down to 1.1 child per woman.
Wow.
So it's not the oldest population or it's not the most quickly aging population in the world,
Mm.
but it is. I don't think that's the lowest fertility rate either. I think South Korea or Singapore or one of those places has a lower fertility rate. But yeah, that's
Marcus, now every time I drink out of this cup, I'm going to think of So I Married an Axe Murderer.
Julie says our feed is lagging. That's no bueno.
Oh, what does that mean?
Is anyone else having that problem?
Keep us posted. I don't know if there's anything we can really do if we're lagging because we're right by the router. So expat Jimmy says no problem here. Okay, well, keep us posted. Of course, I just always assume that anything like that is on our end, and not your end because we are still figuring this out. But Um, this month, doing it on the desktop was a lot easier to set up. So moving forward, if the audio is better, um, it's not as comfortable of a sitting situation in here, but I think this would be a better live stream format moving forward. Marcus says, "Oh, excuse me. I ordered the large coffee. Hello." Stanley says, "Normal for me." Okay. Marcus says it has glitched a couple of times, but all good. Okay, so we'll move forward. Oh, JJ is here. Seek Sustainable Japan. Hi,
Hey,
JJ.
JJ.
I was just going to mention you because in my January wrap up, we just got down to the YouTube section where I give an update on our teeny tiny channel. So this month we have 20 new subscribers this month, which brings us up to just under 5,500. That's a low month. We usually average 100 to 150 new subscribers a month. So this month we had 20 new. Um, we have two YouTube memberships, and JJ Seek Sustainable Japan was our very first member, along with ST Superstition. So thank you to JJ at Seek Sustainable Japan and ST Superstition for being our two YouTube monthly members. And then we now have four supporters over on Buy Me a Coffee: Cody, Jennifer, Kasasagi Home, and our new one is Amy. And she subscribed at the superstar level on the Buy Me a Coffee. So last month we got a great little boost for the end of the year from Amy's subscription over at Buy Me a Coffee, along with during our live stream last month we got some donations from Jackie and Natasha. So um, that was a great little end of the year boost. So we really appreciate that. Last month was um, kind of just a fun chat with all of our regulars more than anything. So JJ says thanks for the honey. Oh, did it glad it arrived safely. JJ ordered another jar of honey, and she says AI slop is killing us human creators. So awesome to get support.
I love AI slop, JJ.
No, he doesn't.
Join us.
Uh, yeah. If you guys don't know, I'm assuming most people here in the chat are interested in Japan and all kinds of Japan topics. So if you don't already know, JJ with Seek Sustainable Japan, she has a great channel that shares all kinds of things, news, um, and it's from around the country, and then also personal stories like that. So definitely go check out her channel. She's come to visit us in person a few times here on Omishima, so she's a great resource.
I don't even know if Bosco is real.
Bosco's AI slop. No, no, that's not true. Okay, so moving into the additional notes for January.
Oh, Paul got some honey too.
Oh, Paul's here too. All right. Glad you like the honey. Um, Paul has come to visit us too. Didn't want to leave that out. So we started the year with a bang. If you watched our taco pop-up video, we did 3 days of making tacos on Omishima for New Year's. Do you want to talk about that?
Sure. Well, we let's see. This is I guess is our second event, and the first was empanadas, and we did empanadas because we just didn't have the tortilla technology. And I have been I made a tortilla press. I showed that, didn't I,
Mhm.
last live stream or something. And so I have been working on my tortilla skills, but we actually found a number of tor- tortillerias in Japan. Um, and we went with
Molina.
Molino Campanoble out of Tokyo, and their tortillas were great. Um, so support them. They're good. They're good people. We actually have found that we have some connections with the coffee guys here. They know them back in Tokyo. But anyway, yeah. So we got those. The biggest problem with doing Mexican food in Japan is just sourcing the ingredients. So we got some cilantro from Thomas at Pitchfork Farms up on Kaishima, and then everything else I grew myself. We had a wild boar that I also made carnitas with, and well, Lawrence at Cogalincha helped us out with some peppers because our peppers didn't do very well this year. But so we got some dried peppers from him, and I was just putting everything together. We just kind of had a hot plate to warm up the tortillas and two one burner stoves, and set up the booth. We also sold honey.
Mhm.
Um,
So we sold 300 tacos, uh, and so we had a hot and mild sauce. Oh my, our signs are right behind us here. So we were selling tacos in plates of 3, and, each set came with 1 hot salsa and a mild salsa, and, happy to report that, both the spicy and mild salsas were eaten. Whether or not they were enjoyed is, you know, nobody.
yeah, feedback was really good though. Feedback in food service is really hard because people just don't want to offend you, so you have to be really pointed with your questioning. So what's
Marcus says he's upped his taco game at home since we've been talking about
yeah.
tacos so much, and, JJ says, "Yay, Thomas. Cilantro is awesome." So she knows Thomas at
Yeah, so there's a
Pitchfork.
bit of a lag with our feed, isn't it, AJ? But that's cool. We'll help
She
you.
says, Rodrigo is a farmer in Nagano, also growing pinto beans,
Oh,
and we know Rodrigo.
we
Well,
do.
we haven't met him in person, but, we know Wendy and Rodrigo.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Okay,
Mhm.
okay, yeah.
Definitely check that out. I didn't realize he was growing pinto beans, so that's good to know. Since I made some posts on, just various Facebook groups in Japan promoting the, taco event, I had a bunch of people reach out to us and say that, they are either making Mexican food in Japan or they're growing, jalapenos or various peppers, and then we connected with a, chef in Tokyo who, does, cooking classes and workshops, and she seems to be connected also with the, company that we purchased the
Molino
tortillas
Campanile.
from,
Yeah.
Molino Campo Noble. So it seems like, the Mexican food community in Japan is small but very interconnected. So, um, everybody was super nice and really happy to introduce themselves and explain what Mexican ingredients they grow and produce. So even if we get to the point where, you know, we can't produce enough ourselves, which will probably be a struggle, especially at the beginning. There seems to be a network of a lot of farmers and producers here in Japan that we can connect with and network.
Yeah, so we're building that out. Pop-up was a success, basically. We got good feedback. Um, no bad feedback. Interesting thing culturally was, of course, like as Danny mentioned, Japanese people don't get the concept of sauces. Like just use all the
Yeah, we
sauce
had
and
to explain that, it wasn't just for dipping a little bit, like, you wanna use all the sauce. The sauce is what makes it really, really
yeah.
good. So,
We also Japanese people eat a lot of their food cold. I know everyone is familiar with Japan, so I didn't need to explain all this stuff, but Japanese people eat a lot of their food cold, and so we didn't have a good to go option. We tried to use real plates because we had a little seating area. We just used paper plates with aluminum foil, and they were just sitting there and hobnobbing and ordering coffee. And I was like, guys, your tacos are getting cold, man. Um, but but it worked out. Yeah, just freaked out, Danny. I'm sorry, everyone. Uh, JJ says that Rodrigo has given Thomas some of those pinto beans. So yeah,
oh,
I'll hit
nice.
up. I'm always looking for more nitrogen fixers in my guild, as we say.
Oh, and, she says your pepper
Yeah,
the
salsa
chili
matcha.
oil. Oh, yeah.
Heck yeah, I wish I had some of that this
I
morning.
forgot we gave you some of that. That's great. So that's sort of the taco sort of segues into the, renovation with the garage, turning that into the retro shop. So we've been doing a lot of planning and thinking, in the last, since October when the visa news came out. We're having to completely not rework our entire business plan, but sort of rework our entire business plan to figure out, how are we going to set ourselves up to meet these new goals in the time frame. And so tacos and hot sauce has always been a part of our business plan, but more like about 5 years into the future. So we're thinking we bring that forward. So of course that's the reason that we pushed so hard and we tested the taco pop-up on New Year's, was to sort of, as an experiment, to say, should we put some faith in tacos and make that a part of our business now in order to help us meet the goals. And
I gotta check on him.
you
Go
have
on.
to check on Bosco.
Yeah. Doing something
He
bad.
just has a toy.
No, he has a
Okay.
shoe.
Um. So, so if we do tacos full time, that means that, should we look into a location for tacos? Should we look into a food cart? Should we
Oh,
do hot sauce or tacos or both? Should we do tortillas or tortilla chips? There's all kinds of discussions that we've been having, with ourselves, with friends, and with, of course, our business consultant. And we were pursuing a physical location for the taco cart, and we found the perfect spot that we were really, really excited about. But it sort of explains why, I we get excited about a lot of things. And, when you're planning big things, not everything is going to work out, even something that you pursue for a while. So we got really excited about this very specific taco location, but I was kind of careful to only tell a few people about it. And, we just found out about a week ago that it's not going to work out, because the the owner of the property was really excited to have us there. He's a friend of ours on the island, a really active member of the community and a good businessman. So he would be a great landlord for our taco shop. And um, but he took it upon himself to contact the health department as we were getting ready to discuss signing a lease. And the septic tank there is not big enough. It's already operating for two restaurants. And they said that even a tiny restaurant could not be added to that septic tank without potentially causing some problems. So, just to be, like, totally open, that's part of the reason that I don't say, every little detail about all of our plans, because, that's not an option now, and that fell through, and that's okay. So we're going to, regroup and think of additional plans. So we sort of had our heart set on it, but it's not the end of the world. So, we are
who throws a shoe? That was Marcus.
that was for Marcus, okay. So, let me go to the comments real quick because I just monologued for quite a while. So, JJ says, "Hot sauce and taco stand at the cycle rest stop near you would be great." That's exactly the location that we were thinking. So, I guess we can tell you guys now, since we know that it's not going to work out. We wanted to do a teeny tiny little taco window, sort of based on, my inspiration was a little shop in Portland called the Waffle Window, and it's just a window walking down the street, and they serve waffles out of it, and, they have some tables there. And so we sort of wanted to take that tiny kitchen concept, and the location was really what sold it, for me, right on the bike path, beautiful view of Tatara Bridge, right next to some other brand new and, already super successful great island businesses. And it was going to be the perfect location, but it won't work because of the septic tank. And, However, the owner of the building I mentioned is, very supportive of us and our plans for the future. So he did say that even though we can't rent his cute, teeny tiny shop and turn it into a kitchen, we can if we end up ever making a food cart. He said we can absolutely park it on his property and still be a part of that business that way. We just wouldn't be a permanent fixture at that location. So there's still options. We're figuring things out as we go. So that's one hiccup. So a very exciting thing and then a bit of a disappointment in the last um, month or so. Um, Julie says, sounds like the wonton window shop in San Francisco Chinatown. Probably something like that. Yeah. Um, the size of the kitchen was 2 tatami mats. So, if you can picture that, a teeny tiny taco window. But, maybe we'll do a food cart there, maybe not. Marcus says there's a coffee place in Kyoto that springs to mind, a tiny little window place. Taco Yatai. Um, Paul says that sounds awesome. Okay, so how does the tacos possibly work to the retro shop? Well, we realized, you know, the retro shop renovation happening right now is, you know, I don't have huge aspirations for our retro shop to be like this fantastic income generating part of our business. The reason that it's happening right now is because we started the small business subsidy application process almost 2 years ago for the retro shop renovation. And, it took so long to get here that it's happening now. We received the small business subsidy and we're so excited about it. It's going to make the guest house improved quite a bit. And it's also going to help us expand into this shop space. And for me, I'm really excited about that. I've just been dreaming of having a place to have all these retro, cute, adorable things for sale. We can have our honey there and veggies, and it's sort of just been this, um, it's going to be for guests and it's going to be for tourists and also people from the neighborhood. But I realized, it's a big space and we are committed right now to renovating it right now because of the time constraints of the small business subsidy. So, how can we adjust our plan? If we adjust it a little bit, can we make this more of a multi-purpose space? So instead of just selling antiques and cute retro goods and honey, what else can we do there? And Evan and I have been talking about doing maybe we'll do monthly events. We've always said from the beginning we'd like to do a monthly event where one day a month I close down the guest house and we have like an open house. And then, if we have the shop space, we could just host a small community event every month, have music and food or something. And then, in our discussions, we started thinking, well, what if that was our kitchen? you know, um, because it's a big garage. It's a big empty space, basically. And if we took about a third of the space and turned the back portion into a commercial kitchen space, it also maybe has like a little seating counter, like a old school um, American diner style, like they used to have little lunch bars in department stores. So, what if the back part of the retro shop became a commercial kitchen? So, why don't you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, well, so initially, I always wanted to be able to do pop ups in the retro shop. I wanted we talked about using it as a shared space for the longest time, and I was just initially saying if we just had a little back bar there, a little sink, then we could have coffee shops come in and work it. And so Danny finally got on board with that, and then we sort of expanded it. And the back third, like she said, is a little has sort of a loft. There's actually a it's actually a covered area. So that's the part that we're thinking about putting, like, containing the kitchen part too. And we were just like snowballing out from just having a sink to then, well, if we had kitchen equipment, et cetera, that we could offer up for people to use, then that would just it would just make it more of an attractive space, you know. And then now that we can't use the taco window, we were thinking about originally having another kitchen and then taking everything that had been prepped to the taco windows because the taco window would be so small. So, and the other kitchen was gonna be elsewhere, dot, dot, dot. But so now we're thinking we're gonna do the kitchen in the retro shop, at least temporarily, and then also maybe we'll just have kind of a full service restaurant there, why not? And, yeah, so that's what we're envisioning now, and we're just sort of I've been working on the well, I don't know, we're gonna talk about this later, but, in just a bit on according to Danny's notes, but I've been doing the installation, and I got to a point in the installation where I said, "Ah, man, you know what? Wiring exists, so maybe I want to leave some space for the wiring to go before I do the finishing walls or ceiling." And so yeah, we've just been thinking about gosh, all the wiring you would need for a kitchen, and now we probably need sewer too. And I think the bathroom is going to be covered because it's technically part of the ret- the the, the guest house. Sorry, but we're just thinking about all this logistical stuff of operating a kitchen out of this space, and yeah, and it's like it's just happening now, and so it just sort of was sprung upon us, and I think that the plan right now is our tourism season starts like with the cherry blossoms. I don't think we'll be quite ready in time to take advantage of that, but if we could have a small restaurant to be offering people food on Omishima during the tourism season, especially breakfast, I think that could be really lucrative for us. So
Yeah, so we're still sort of finalizing the plans, and I think all of February. So Evan's hoping to have the insulation and the ceiling up by the end of January, and then February we still have a lot of plastering. We've got the shikui plaster to do inside there. There is a lot of work to do in the garage, and all of that will be us learning how to do it as we go. Um, because the rest of the renovation during February, the majority of that will be handled by contractors that we have to be there to supervise and give input. So while they are doing the driveway expansion, so repairing and expanding the driveway, adding the second toilet room to the guest house, and installing an air conditioner and heating unit in the kitchen. The city is funding 2/3 of the project. Um, so professional contractors will be handling all that. And then during that time, Evan and I will be doing the shikui plaster in the garage. We have to construct an entire new entryway out of repurposed, beautiful, giant glass doors that came originally from this house. We think they were originally used in what is now our honeybee workshop. Um, we're going to take those glass doors and use them as our new retro shop doors down by the guest house. So we do have, and then you also have to, we also have to do the bathtub repair again too. So that's going to be a bit. So we have, and I have, this is the list that I've started of all the little things we want to do in the guest house while it's closed down too. So February is going to be packed. So what I'm thinking as far as schedule is February, we just have a ton of work to do, and then we can be planning and talking about and budgeting for the electricity and the kitchen part of the retro shop. So we're just gonna leave, in February, we probably won't have any of the kitchen built because we're just gonna I mean, we've got such a long list of things to do, but we can plan out the kitchen. We can contact the electric company and the electrician and get a quote for, getting that set up, and then we can start going to, the used commercial kitchen supply store and start getting some numbers on some things like that. And so March and April will probably be setting up a kitchen.
Uh, yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, the way that we have it planned, we're just doing the renovation for all of February. So we've just said, and we have again Edgar, our friend in Mexico, who's trying to help us out and trying to get set up here too. Um, we had a meeting with him, and we just kind of concluded that February is just going to be the renovation, and when we get to March, then we're gonna start working on the next stage. So, and yeah, like Danny said, during February, while we're doing renovation, we'll be able to talk about some stuff and try and get a plan together. But I don't think we're going to be actively, seriously planning stuff until March. So, just,
Yep. We've had a lot of chats come in, so, I'm almost done with our January wrap up, but let's jump over and see, what y'all are saying. So JJ says, "Can you add some of your photography prints framed and for sale in the retro shop and your own original photo postcards?" That's a great idea. I did appreciate your comment a couple days ago asking if I had an online print shop. And I do have a print shop set up on my photography website. So I do offer prints and frame prints and canvases and metal prints that drop ship directly from whichever country the purchaser orders from. So I use a photo lab that is maybe not worldwide, but they cover the US, Canada, Australia, Japan, and some European countries. Um, so that is all set up, but then, yes, that would be a really good idea to have some photo prints in the retro shop too, so thanks for thinking of that. Then Fiona says, "You are both working so hard, and I wish you didn't have to. With all the ongoing discussions about the changes towards residency, are you worried about all your hard work being for nothing?" And then I think, Alex has the same question below out of curiosity, "Are you remotely worried about not meeting the new updated manager visa requirements even with these plans push?" And, I mean,
LOL.
yeah, obviously, I don't mean to say obviously, but yes. Yeah, we're really worried about it. We do have some plans in place. So yes, I am worried about it. I also, uh that's sort of what the second half of this live stream, which will be, talking about what's coming up. We do have some good news. Um, so I will get to that, but yes, we are incredibly worried about it. It's it's very, very daunting, but we have decided to stay and try. I've been I've been talking with other people on the business manager visa, in different parts of Japan, and, so far, I've personally only spoken to one person who is going to try and stay and do it. I've spoken to a few people that are still on the startup portion of the business manager visa, and, all of those people, which is maybe a half dozen, so again, not a lot that I've personally talked to, but all of the people that I've spoken to who are in the startup portion of the program are planning on staying and doing it. Um, well, no, that's not true either. There was one couple that I spoke to who were in the startup program, and they decided not to stay, so they have actually left and, back to their home country, because they didn't want to try and meet new goals. So it's not only is it causing the, abrupt stop of applications that we mentioned earlier, but it is already also causing other legitimate small businesses to leave. Um, and, when the news first broke, we definitely considered all of our options. We thought, "How are we possibly gonna do this?" But in the few months since then, I'm a very I'm a very hesitantly optimistic person, but I do feel like we have a shot at it, and, so we have committed to staying here and trying, and we are going to even, we're gonna be doubling down on it, basically. We're already all in, um, and we're going to be, investing even more into it, with our work and with the, last little bit of our retirement plan, basically. So we are very nervous, but we're also not giving up. So does that answer the question?
Yeah, we could be here all day talking about that.
Yeah.
And thanks for the we got a super chat from
Oh, thank you,
JJ. So
JJ.
thanks very much. We are very dependent on super chat. So if anyone hears about this story and says, "Hey, these guys are working really hard, and we're thankful for the information they're putting out there, and they want to, compensate us for that," there's plenty of options. We also do buy me a coffee, and I don't know. Danny can tell you if there's more stuff like that, but that we're doing. And just the cultural thing is Japan is a what's a nice way of saying passive aggressive? They don't say no, they say it's difficult. Okay? So just example, when we were told that we couldn't do the taco window, he didn't say no. He said, "I'm sorry, it's difficult." Okay? So the business manager visa program essentially no longer exists. Okay? It exists on paper. You can totally go through the process. They went through the headache of making all of their prefectures open an office just to handle the startup visa, which feeds into the business manager visa, and then they basically destroyed it. Okay, and by making it difficult, right? So it's not a no, it's a difficult, and that's just what you deal with in Japan.
Yeah, and particularly difficult for any sort of small business or any sort of rural business, I don't yeah, we've had a lot of conversations with people who say, there's no way they can do it now, and I would imagine the only people who have 30 million yen sitting around would be if they want to invest and start a business in Japan, it would be like some sort of major corporation. So, anyone doing something like us who wants to live in the countryside and, revitalize the tiny island and do farming or anything like that, if you have 30 million yen lying around, it doesn't really, um, you're probably not gonna move to the countryside with 30 yen. So it is a difficult situation. Um, so Alex says, "It sucks, and I'm sorry to hear Japan has a long tradition of shooting itself in the foot, and TBH changes and the recent sentiments turn off so many ideal applicants. I know, agree." Yeah. Yeah, I mean, but also it is what it is, and, I guess if you wanna put it on the bright side, if you wanna, like, spin it around and say, like, yeah, it's a major bummer, and, it's really scary, and it's like we were playing the game and we were doing well, and, we kept, advancing to the next stage, and then the rules of the game got changed in the middle of it. So, yeah, it sucks for us, but if you spin that around a little bit, like, if we manage to pull this off, we will essentially have been forced to build a better business and a bigger business than we ever planned on. So, if we pull this off and succeed in meeting the new goals, which I do think we will, um, we will have a business that is set up for more long-term success than we ever really planned on, with just the 2 of us, or at least a lot sooner than we planned. So, we will be if we are successful before the October 2028 deadline, we will have built the business that we had planned to have in 5 to 10 years, um, you know,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah. Yeah. Great. Thanks, Japan.
Yeah.
Someone with 30 million yen is probably going to Korea, Germany, or somewhere else, unless they have major connections to Japan. It's a large investment for uncertainty. Let's get on to the next topic because this is. I mean, we could be. We've. I think we've already devoted like 3 live streams just to this topic. So yeah, it is what it is. I mean, the uncertainty is the real kicker with Japan is people like Japan because it's very stable. Okay, and so to have to change its mind like this is very off brand for the country, and I mean I think that's all you can say. I think it's like
Well,
yeah,
let's move on to, we have 2 pieces of news before we get to a little bit of bad news, and then we're gonna get to some good news. So we have 2 topics for you to cover, which is the coffee cupping with Radar Room and Moody Mall Coffee, and then your Evans seed report.
okay. So the coffee we are finally getting together with the 2 local roasters on the island. Mamo at the Radar Room and Cafe. Mamo's doing like, all the roasting, so he's gotten a couple samples from us. And he's a super cool guy and like kind of a coffee wizard. I was really impressed working with him at the pop up. They also had the coffee at the pop up. Sold
And
really
this is
well.
the coffee that we brought back with us from our trip to Mexico. So it's green coffee beans, and,
It was,
Evan has been distributing them to a few of the coffee roasters on the island.
yeah, and I don't know anything about coffee, so I'm working on it. But so it was Pacamara is one of the varieties, and then one of them was a Cup of Excellence winner. The third was the same variety from it, but a different batch from the batch that won the Cup of Excellence. So they were super stoked to have those beans to roast, and I think they're going to be really happy about it. And again, we're gonna one of the things we're talking about is doing coffee imports. One of the things we just started talking about was maybe offering a canned coffee. So if you have any comments on that, you think a canned coffee, just like the Boss coffee, but just making a little um, mom and pop version of that. If anybody in the comments thinks that'd be a good idea or a bad idea, we have space in the retro shop to do something like that. Um, Geisha, no, yeah, I don't know. They probably grow geisha in Mexico. Basically, we have our friend Edgar is connected with some guys who are one guy particularly who's connected with just all of the. He goes around Mexico finding the best beans in Mexico, so it's super premium stuff. And Radar Room's lineup is really premium. It's the kind of place where it's like 20 different types of single origin coffee beans you go into. The price reflects that. Um, uh, so that's what we're shooting for. And I don't know much about coffee again, so it's hard to get into that. But we've got a lot of coffee shops opening up on the island. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, one of my forecasts for Omishima is that it's going to become known for coffee, and, I so we don't want to have a cafe, like, we don't wanna be we're not coffee people, like, I obviously drink coffee, but, you know, we have all kinds of other interests, and we don't really wanna do that and compete with all of the coffee people, but we would love to bring them, green beans, from Mexico and, sort of work with our friend Edgar in Mexico for getting this going.
Yeah, we're working on just the import side of it and trying to put together a big enough shipment of various things so that we can cut down the shipping costs and offer the products cheaply. So, I'm interested in growing food and importing food is it's another part of the food distribution thing. And since I've been working at the citrus factory, I think I mentioned our last live stream, I'm really interested in all aspects of just getting food in people's mouths. So
Mhm.
it's fun and it's a worthy thing to do. And there's plenty of interesting things to import from Mexico. There's plenty of things that you can grow in Mexico that you can't grow in. Um, yeah, and Marcus gets it with the UCC. Um,
Marcus says UCC canned coffee fits the retro vibe, and I like it.
yeah, and Alex says Panamanian coffee. Yeah, see, Mexican coffee just doesn't have much street cred at the moment. So the thing is that we have like a really great distribution pathway that we could potentially set up or take advantage of if we can get that that last mile sort of a distribution thing in place. And I'm looking for ways that we can take advantage of Omishima basically being a cheap place to do business and yet still have the ability to take advantage of the major markets in Tokyo and Osaka. So, if we were just to get some machinery and start making canned coffee and shipping it to those other markets, that would mean, you know, we can also sell like through just the Michinakis and things like that. Yeah, but it might be a way that we could just leverage what we have going on here.
Marcus says, or of course, Moss does its world lines. Interesting.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, my vision for that would be we have like a regular coffee, and then regular coffee with milk, regular coffee with Omishima honey, and then maybe we partner with Radar Room or Moonimal and say we have a premium collabo line with the single origins. And it's something that they do in the United States. I'm sure it's in Australia too, but there's this thing of we all grew up getting accustomed to just like buying food off the shelf from major brands, major food producers, and now there's goodness, now there's local guys coming in and trying to replace the major brands with smaller brands, and I think that's a really
Oh,
cool
Marcus
thing.
gets it now. He didn't know we were talking about making a canned coffee. Yeah, I don't think I mentioned this to you. We got a lot of like plans going on as we're trying to figure out how can we.
Yeah, it just popped into my mind when I was watching Mamo at the popped up in the pop up line, and he's just this coffee wizard. He's got this little chemistry set to just you taste it and then he adds minerals to improve the flavor and stuff. And I was like, gosh, even though I don't know much about coffee, I could trust this guy to roast us an excellent coffee. And I asked him, he said, yes, he's interested. He's interested in some sort of collabo, however that works out. So, but yeah, that's the cupping news. We're gonna have that next the end of this week, and hopefully,
Tuesday, the 27th,
oh
we're going to
gosh,
have a test cupping of the Mexican coffee beans at Minimal Cafe.
yeah,
And that is just for roasters, right? So that's not like open to people to come visit. It's just going to be a test
it's just
cupping for the other coffee shops on the island.
yeah, it's just them and us. Yeah, yeah. And then the other, I have started the seeds for the year.
Evan has been busy with all of his little seedlings. Um, so tell him what you got growing.
Uh, peppers. Yeah. Alex said, okay, he missed what I said about canned coffee. Yeah, so you wouldn't be using $600 a pound beans for that. No, probably not. But the idea would be that if we were using a large enough volume of not the most premium beans. Like I said, I would be doing single origin, small batches too. But the idea would be by importing larger amounts of beans that we can fill up a shipping container, right? A 20-foot shipping container. That's the minimum threshold for getting cheap shipping. We could then sell the $600 a pound beans for something less than other people would be able to. So
Yeah.
yeah,
And this is sort of an example of just like the brainstorming. Like, I'm not even fully comfortable talking about our idea of possibly doing canned coffee out here on the internet. Even though, it's not like we have the entire world watching, we have 15 people watching, but still, like, um, I I mean, when we're coming up with our plan to meet the new visa goals, of course, we're gonna talk about all kinds of possible options, and, maybe we'll move forward with this and maybe not, maybe you won't hear of it again, but, maybe that'll be a great new part of our business, and maybe if we did something like that, that would be a great opportunity for us to create a full-time job for an employee, which is the other thing that we need to work towards, which I'll get to that next, after Evan's, seed report, and then our bad news that we have to tell you, then we'll get to the good news.
Yeah.
Um, so
Well, seeds.
yep,
I don't know who's interested in seeds out there. Um, thanks, Alex Dublin. Still
thanks,
sticking with it.
Alex. Yeah,
So we're gonna be growing lots of peppers, and we're called Benton Homestead. So the idea has been that we're a farming business since we started, and haven't really done very much farming in the time we've been here. But so we're gonna be growing a lot of Mexican peppers that are hard to find here, and I have just started those. I've been doing it for 3 years, and this year I got the seed starting down pretty well, soaking them in hydrogen peroxide, and now I've got
you said you had a much better sprout rate this year?
well, success rate in general.
Okay,
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah. So yeah, I figured out how to reinvigorate the dried pepper seeds, so that's fun. I'm getting some of those just you can import those legally because they're so I have a cascabel pepper seed that sprouted yesterday. I'm very excited about. I'm probably not going to get into all the different varieties because I don't know how interested people are here. But yeah, we're just growing Mexican peppers for salsas and stuff that we're going to be offering at least throughout the year at our monthly pop up, and maybe in the salsas that we can sell online, etc. Yeah, so we're moving forward with that and getting some results. Happy about it.
Okay,
So now we have bad news.
yeah.
Okay, the bad news, guys. All
We've been, we've been trying to figure out how to break this news, for a while, and, it's started, early or late fall, and, been monitoring a situation that it's not just us, it's throughout Japan.
Let me just tell it.
Go ahead,
All
Evan.
right, all our bees are dead. That's right, all of our bees are dead, and it started happening in July, right after I made the splits. And I initially thought that I had made a terrible mistake because they just started dying one by one, and I had a couple months of just feeling terrible. And
And
then I
all of
spoke
the bees
to
on Omishima are dead.
can I well, yeah, and then I spoke to our mentor, and he said, "Yeah, all my bees are dead too." Um, and everyone I know in the beekeeping industry, all of their bees are dead too. Um, and so it's like 80% of his bees. So we had 20 colonies, and they're all dead. He had 120 colonies, and he's down to 20 colonies. And all of his friends on the mainland um, are in the same position. He told me that Omishima had around 800 bees, 800
Nine
colonies,
hundred, nine
and
hundred.
and now it has 200 colonies. So um, so,
700 bee colonies died on our tiny island alone.
so it's the entire country of Japan. And I don't know if I mentioned this ever, but last year the same thing happened in the United States. So it's so I don't know how aware people are of what's going on in the beekeeping industry, but it is being absolutely destroyed right now, all around the world. Um,
It's
and
happening in Australia this year too.
well, so that music guy says varroamite. Yeah, that's the most popular theory, but there's some problems with that. Basically, I'm going to make a whole video basically talking about this because it's huge. Um, but last year, almost exactly a year ago, February 2025, I started hearing some reports from North America that said that they were seeing massive honeybee losses. And so, first of all, long story short, varroamite is the most popular theory, but it's basically cause unknown at this point. If you remember the colony collapse disorder from 2008, this is far worse, and they basically just have no idea what's going on. like I said, the theory is there's a um, the theory is that the varroa mites have developed a resistance to the most common varroa mite treatment, which is called Apivar, and that is what has called them, or that is what was caused it. It just no longer works, and so the mites are running rampant. I definitely saw a lot of mites on my colonies this year, so I can attest to that the varroa mites are a huge problem. I do think they are the number one problem, but um, the theory that they have developed this Apivar resistance is false, based on the fact that it happened less than a year apart in North America and Japan. So if that were true, the resistant mites, the the proposed presumed resistant mites would have had to travel from North America to Japan in less than a year, and that's obviously not true. So it's something that is just around the world at the same time. Another really
Mm.
interesting thing is that the mite did not exist in Australia until 2022. So, in geological terms, that's like the exact same time the the Varroa shows up in Australia that it causes these devastating losses in North America and Japan. So back to last year in North America, what happened is the almond harvest is the biggest moneymaker for beekeepers in North America. And rather than selling honey, they actually make all of their money renting their colonies out as pollinators. And the biggest pollination uh, time period is the almonds in California. And so it's so big that there's actually brokers, middlemen connecting up the beekeepers all around North America with the almond growers in California. And this is just one of the most interesting things about being in an industry that's collapsing is just like us, they started seeing their losses in July or so, fall of 2024, and just didn't say anything about it. And their bees were just dying and dying and dying. And then the brokers start to call them up in June, July, or in January or February to say, "Hey, we need those bees for the pollination of the almonds." And they say, "Yeah, about that, all our bees are dead." And that's when they found out that all the bees were dead. They had already died. They had been dead for months, but they didn't find out about it until they started making the calls for the almond pollination. And basically, the same thing happened here on Omishima, where my bees started dying around July. I started talking to people, and they said, "No, my bees are fine. What'd you do wrong?" And then a couple months later, sure enough, all their bees were dead too. But no one's talking about it. Um,
And
and
the reason that you noticed in July and they didn't is because you were following our honeybee mentor's schedule of doing, regular checks. So the people who said that their colonies were okay were not actually checking on their colonies, probably.
probably, yeah, I couldn't have been more diligent in my beekeeping last year. I worked my butt off. And, yeah, well, and so, my mentor said, so I did the splits on my own, and the splits I did were huge. Splitting a colony means you take frames out, you make sure that the bees, if they have enough baby bees, they'll raise new queens. So you just take those and make sure they have enough baby bees to make enough queens, and you put them over here, and the original queen stays here. And my splits were huge. I had about 5 frames, which is more than my
Yeah.
mentor would recommend. However, I did it on my own, and he said, "Man, you should have let me help." And so I was like, "Yeah, I guess I should have." But then it was like a month later, so he said, "Oh yeah, all my bees are dead." And also, I followed his recommendations on treatment for the Apivar. He only treats for the mites in the fall, and I spoke to him later, and he said, "Oh yeah, it was a bad year, so I had actually treated for mites in the spring." So you would think, well, that would have helped, but it didn't help him. Okay, so everybody who did different things than myself had the same outcome. That's of 100% losses, or at least 80% losses. So it is what it is. There's nothing I could have done differently. Oh, and Julie says, "No wonder honey got so expensive." Huh? Yeah. Yeah, and on Facebook, it's just like social media is so heavily curated. There's like there's no dislike button on Facebook, right? And so the whole point of social media is to get dopamine, and you're not gonna get the whole story, right? So I'm getting all these targeted ads for beekeepers throughout the year with their, you know, posting on social media, on Facebook mainly, and none of them are mentioning this, and I'm just feeling like it does. I'm feeling worse and worse and worse, and then just this past month, really, since it's wintertime, now I'm seeing tons of people saying, "Yeah, my bees are all gone." Yeah,
Mhm.
so it's real, and again, it's just one of the biggest, craziest things of living through this is just no one's talking about it, and you don't hear about it until like the last second where they're saying, "Hey, can I get some honey?" And you say, "Yeah, no, my bees are dead. Died a while ago. Sorry."
I know there is, we don't know the date yet or if you're gonna be able to go, but there is actually, some sort of beekeeping convention that our mentor is going to for,
For the prefecture in
Ehime Prefecture beekeepers, um, to discuss this specifically. So, uh, Julie said this was a local news story here last year regarding the almond crop. Yeah, but that still would have been like 6 months after the bees had actually died that it hit the news because the almond crop is so much later than when the bees were actually dying. So it's just something that nobody has been talking about,
yeah,
including us. We didn't know what to say or how to say it, really, and, it's like, well, and when we tell people, then they're like, "Oh, yeah, and all the oysters died too."
yeah, all the oysters in, the inland sea, the Seto Sea, are dead too, the farmed oysters, so, I mean, it's one of these things we hear about just mass animal deaths, all the time, and they're just sort of like on the last page of Weekly World News or something like that, but they're real. They just have flocks of seagulls just fall out of the sky, and it's been going on. I mean, it's yeah. Or 2020, there was a massive humpback whale or gray whale die off. There was also king crabs, I think, all died, or one of those big crabs that live in off the coast of Alaska. They all died in 2020.
Yeah, JJ, I knew JJ was gonna say something. She says this is horrifying. I had no idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've been, it's been a hard couple of months. I mean, just thinking of just our tiny island alone, 700 bee colonies died. So 700 out of 900. So including our 25, and, it's I don't have we spoken with people far outside of Ehime Prefecture?
No.
No,
No. For
so
bees, no.
yeah, but our mentor has been talking with all of his friends, and he's a second generation beekeeper, so, he has all kinds of connections. JJ says oyster industry 80% less harvest last year is true too. Crazy. Hiroshima area is the biggest producer for Japan. Yeah, and I don't know if I remember correctly, but I read that there would be no oyster harvest in Hiroshima area because they were so worried about the low numbers. That might not be 100% accurate, but it's a staggering number of oysters have died, and now also honeybees.
And the government's offering subsidies for oyster farmers is a much bigger industry than honeybees, so I don't think we're gonna get any money for that. That'd be sweet. Uh, we
Will you join my show to talk about it next month?
Yeah, sure. I wanna put out a video of my on my own, so if we can get together in time how that would happen, because I wanna put out, like, it's probably gonna be a long video, there's so much to talk about. I'm not sure what kind of format I wanna do it in, but, yeah, I think if we can, um, time that to where that redirects traffic to that video, that would be really helpful. Um, Let me share the theory, which is really interesting, with what is actually happening here. And so I do agree with the mainstream theory that it is the varroa mite. And that being said, so my background is in alternative medicine. I was a massage therapist for 12 years, which doesn't give me any sort of credibility, to talk about anything like this, other than the fact that I've just spent a ton of time reading about it. And so basically, I subscribe to the theory of a guy named Hans Selye, which was he came up with a theory called stress theory, which is that it's not diseases do not exist as just discrete processes in the body. Um, and what a disease is actually the body's response to stress. So you have different types of stressors. You can be too hot, you can be too cold, you can be starving, you can be just deprived of a certain nutrient, and this causes symptoms to appear in different ways. So you never look for just a single cause for an organism not doing well. You look at the entire picture and you see what's going on there, and you try to correct any sort of deficiencies or imbalances that might be occurring. So if a mite is coming in and taking advantage of a bee, it's because the bee is not doing well to begin with. So what's the problem there? And there is a theory which is called very succinctly the pseudo drone theory. And what this means is that there's three types of bees. Okay, there's the queen bee, there's the worker bee, and there's the drone, the male bee. And the drones and the worker bees both have two different sizes of cells that they are raised in, and the drone is bigger. And in nature, the the varroa mite would only affect the drone bees. Okay, so in a natural colony in the woods, in a tree hollow, there might be a very high level of varroa mites, but they're only affecting the drones. So that's an interesting fact. Uh,
And the drones are a pretty small portion of the population of the colony.
yeah. So, and they're not essential. They don't go out and collect any pollen or nectar. So, what happened is in 1893, some beekeepers decided that if they made the foundation, which is the wax sheet that's embossed with the butts of the hexagon cells, if they made the foundation slightly larger, the worker bees would then be slightly larger as a result that came out of it. And then those larger worker bees would be more efficient. They'd be able to carry more honey. And so they did that. They introduced a larger size cell, and the bees that came out of that were accordingly slightly larger. The jury is out still as to whether or not they are actually more efficient, but they're larger. Okay, so um, in a natural colony, the size of the cells varies according to latitude and temperature, and it varies throughout the year because they're constantly like making and reforming the cells. But they're not as easy to harvest honey from because they're more fragile. And so beekeepers like to use foundation, which has wires going through it too, because when you put it in the spinner, it doesn't fall apart as well. So or it doesn't fall apart as readily. So that's why they use it, and it's also builds out faster. The bees use it and build out faster, and they build out straighter. So various reasons why they use foundation, but an effect of using the foundation is that it actually affects the physical size of the bees. Um, and so the varroa mite did not start to be a problem until the 1980s. And so if you talk to old time beekeepers, Steve's here.
Morning, Steve.
If you talk to old time beekeepers, they'll say, yeah, the varroa mite. I remember the days when varroa mite was not a problem and beekeeping was just a cakewalk, basically. Um, and so what has happened over time is the bees are actually bigger, and the pseudo drone theory says that the mites are confusing these artificially larger worker bees for drones, and so they're going into the worker bee cells and laying eggs there. And so,
And one important point is that the worker bees are larger, but disproportionately larger, which
yeah,
is the thing. So it makes their bodies and their heads larger when they're born and grown in the larger honeycombs, but their legs are not larger. So the mites live on their back, and they would be able to reach their back and remove the drone, but because they have been raised in artificially larger cells decided by humans and not by honeybees, their legs do not get as big as their bodies and they can't reach their backs to remove the mites.
yeah. Well, something like that is happening for sure. Um, it, uh, uh, the other single type of mite, there's now a new one called a tropolepsis, I think, mite that doesn't affect North America or Japan yet. But another mite called the tracheal mite was simply uh, too large to fit down the bee's trachea until the bees were enlarged. So the tracheal mite was originally a mite that in a natural colony would just live on the outside of a bee and eat dead skin or something. And then when the bees got to a certain size, the tracheal mite was able to fit down the bees. Well, they don't have they have the, what do they call them? Spiracles or something. They have holes in their thorax that they breathe through.
Yeah, it's a big
So
problem, Steve. It's a major problem throughout Japan, and people are only just now starting to talk about it.
yeah,
I don't know if you caught the part where we broke the news that just on our tiny island alone, 700 out of the 900 bee colonies have died. And our honeybee mentor, all of the beekeepers that he's in contact with, most of them are reporting at least 80% to 100% losses also. So there's a big bee death going on.
so the solution is to use smaller foundation, which is they've measured a woman named Dee Lusby in Arizona has done all this research starting in the 80s or 90s. And so if you go down below 5.1 millimeters, the burrow might no longer seem to have an effect. Uh, and the other option is to simply raise your own foundation. So you just give them an empty frame and uh, they pull out the foundation on their own. And that's what I'm going to plan to do when we get bees again, because then you just take all the guesswork out of trying to figure out what the right size foundation is. And it's also hard. A lot of this stuff was done without really thinking about it. They weren't measuring the foundation that precisely to determine the effect on the bees. Um, and so this woman Dee Lesby went around and had to go to different manufacturers and sort of source on her own what size foundations were appropriate. But so the thing is, because bees use their body size as sort of a measuring stick to make the cells, if the bees are too big, the cells are going to be too big too that they make. So if you start with a 5.4 millimeter bee, they've she's figured out that they can go down like zero point 0.2 millimeters in a generation. So you'll have a 5 point start with 5.4, you'll have a 5.2, and then the next one will be the right size basically. So you have to raise out those bees that are the proper size, and that's a process too that's going to take a couple, at least several months, but probably figure on a whole year. And so that's going to be the process I'm going to go through this year when we get our bees, which will probably be in May. Is I'm going to just first off like give them some new foundation and make sure that I'm getting. So first of all, I'm getting the foundation. I'm making I'm allowing my bees to draw out that foundation myself, and then I'm actually accumulating the population of bees that are the proper size to survive.
Yeah.
Um,
Now, Julia is asking, did this affect all bee species like Japanese wild bees?
no,
And I would say, well, first of all, I would just say that all of the beekeepers that our mentor is talking to are commercial beekeepers, and commercial beekeepers in Japan are um, we're talking all European bees.
mhm.
So uh,
It,
we don't know if it affected the native bee because so very few people actually keep native bees.
well, so the thing is, that's why I mentioned Hansstelia and stress theory is that I mean, invertebrate populations are doing bad in general. Even oysters are doing bad, right? Um, the fact of the matter is that now, and again, this is it's so biology has a lot of variables. Okay, it's not like chemistry where you can say like water is composed of hydrogen and oxygen, right? A bee is composed of organs and tissues and cells in addition to chemicals. And so all of these variables have to be taken into account, and you just have to be humble about it, right? And I mean, and it's hard to talk about this type of stuff really with certainty because it's impossible essentially. But we can say with a pretty high degree of certainty that wild honeybees, that's the same species that we keep commercially in North America, are basically fine. However, what you'll find if you examine those colonies, I said this earlier, is a very high mite. So if you're looking at that mite load and using that to gauge health, you with the conclusion that they're dying at they're dying in droves. And the fact is that doesn't appear to be the case. What appears to be the case is that the mite has reached some sort of equilibrium with the honeybee host species where it's only affecting the drones and it's not being transferred over to the workers. Okay, so that's a big problem that when we people like me, treatment free beekeepers or small cell beekeepers, people are trying to reduce the cell size. Uh, they're still going to have huge mite numbers. The thing is, the mites just aren't going to affect the worker bees. So, um,
Julie says there's a YouTuber from the southern Japanese island that has a wild beehive and he lost about 20%.
yeah, yeah.
Jin is saying it's unwatchable, glitchy, and laggy. Is anyone else having that problem? Please let us know. Again, if it is, I'm not sure if there's anything we can do. I know we've got really good internet, and so if anyone else is considering the stream unwatchable, please let me know, and I'll see what I can do for the future.
Yeah. Yeah, and Real Rural Japan says similar issue. It seems when they brought in rotary milking machines. Um, Thanks, Steve. Doing their best. We're more concerned about the technical quality. If it's not watchable, that's a bummer. So okay, we're just gonna soldier on. Maybe next month we'll just plug it into the router.
Yeah, we're still figuring this out, guys. A year in, and we're trying to get everything up to snuff, but trying to listen to all of your feedback so we can improve the live streams.
I'm probably just a glitchy guy.
Evan's actually glitchy in person. It's actually
It's true.
okay.
So that's again, there's a lot. And yeah, Julie, maybe we can talk about it on your show next month. But
JJ.
that's sorry, JJ. Uh, but yeah, that's about it for the bees. Again, I can talk about it for hours and hours and hours. Um, but
Yeah,
yeah,
it's just a shocking thing. It's a shocking thing. And we watched it happen from here in America last year, and we were reading the news, and it was just shocking. What was the updated numbers? You said that America is
right.
now reporting for last year.
So last year in February, the North American beekeeping industry was reported at $100 million in losses. And I just recently saw a news story which was reporting that when you factor in all of the related industries, like the almond industry, they're now reporting $600 million in losses. And the average losses per beekeeper are 60% of their colonies. Um, so, like our mentor said, we just have to find a new way to keep bees. Uh, the era of beekeeping as a, that era of beekeeping is over. Um, and so, yeah, I think for people like us who are just starting out, it's much less of a problem because, like I said, we
Yeah,
lose.
we only lost 25 colonies, but our mentor lost 100 colonies, and other people lost 100% of their colonies, and they have, you know, it's just,
Yeah, 100 colonies.
yeah,
100 colonies is worse than 20 colonies to lose. And to clean up all the yucky frames and stuff, that's a ton of work. So I was disgusted and overwhelmed with 20 dead colonies to clean out, and I just yeah, I think a lot of people are just gonna quit. But yeah, we'll see. Moving forward, the goal is gonna be for the new plan for keeping bees is gonna be we're gonna settle for 50 colonies long term, and we're gonna focus on implementing some new strategies. And I'm going to focus on selling queens, selling nucleus colonies.
yeah.
And our mentor said that's going to be a great way to. He's gonna have no trouble finding us buyers for 50 colonies. You give us 50
Yeah.
nucleus colonies a year.
So the first step will be next year. We're going to baby colonies, and that's going to be because everyone's bees died. So you have to have really robust colonies in order to split off a nucleus colony to sell to another beekeeper. So if we can get colonies in the spring, which you said you think would happen around May, if it's going to be possible, we will spend the entire next year focusing on bee health, like Evan said, which means next year there will be no honey harvest. Even if we have X number of colonies, we almost certainly will not be harvesting any honey. It will probably all be needed for the bee health. Is that correct?
Yeah, and I don't think we'll be able to split any of those colonies either. I don't think all of those colonies will survive.
Yeah.
So
So next year is will be a bee investment with zero income. So if we get bees, we'll spend the entire year nurturing them and focusing on their health, getting the cell size down to their natural drawn comb size, and not harvesting any of their honey until, depending on how the health goes, at least next year. And
yeah,
then you were saying possibly not for
2 or
another
3, I
year.
think 2 or 3 years, and so I just don't think honeybees are gonna be a moneymaker for anyone for the foreseeable future. We're committed to it, and it's just one of these things
It's a
where
responsibility.
yeah, it's one of these things where I'm looking around the interwebs and I'm seeing people even read these same sources like that I'm reading, like Gillespie, and just not getting it, not understanding. Because, like, for example, they'll say we need to breed mite-resistant bees, and it's just like, no, breeding mite-resistant bees is like my analogy is if you take a bunch of horses and you want to breed race horses, and you start by breaking their legs, and then you see which ones are good runners, and then you breed those. That's what we're doing with bees right now. It's an absolutely unworkable scenario, you know. Yeah. Uh, Julie, sorry, JJ, shared an article, wants to know what I think about AI and bees. What do you think I think about AI and bees? But seriously, I'll read the article. Thanks for sharing. And
We'll read it. Yeah, it
there's
might
some
have
really
some.
interesting new technologies being implemented where they're actually putting microphones inside the colonies, and they're using machine learning to just tell based on the sounds that the bees are making when they're ready to harvest and when they're about to swarm and things like that. So, uh,
That's really interesting.
yeah, some of those are pretty expensive. And again, a lot of, I mean, saving the bees is going to be expensive. So I think like for our business, we just need to make money elsewhere and put that money into saving the bees. But there's also some open source uh, things like that, and I'm not very good with 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 programming and electronics, so I don't know if I'll be able to do that. But there is some open source versions of those same technologies also being implemented. They're very cool stuff, technology wise, enabling us to have better look at what's going on inside the colonies. Steve says he'll buy some bees. I think that's what he means.
Hmm.
Hopefully, we'll sell you some.
Well, Steve has Darren as his neighbor now,
Oh,
so
right,
and
right, right.
Darren wants to get into beekeeping.
Yeah,
So yeah, maybe we'll send you some of our bees once we
yeah.
get to that point.
Well, okay, and so the silver lining of the bee death is that our business plan, with the changes to the visa, so like when they all died was about the same time the visa changes happened. So that was a pretty hefty double blow for us.
Mhm.
And but the silver lining is that we never really were going to be able to hire someone full time to help us with bees, right? And even with the guest house, because we could definitely use someone during the harvest. Right now, with 25 colonies, it was crazy the amount of work we had to do during the citrus blossom harvest. So we could justifiably hire someone if we had bees this year with 25 colonies. But it just wasn't ever going to work for having a full-time beekeeper for us because there's nothing for them to do, like, right now in the winter. So it
Yeah, so let's talk about that for a minute. So we have so segueing in, still talking about bees, but shifting over to the new visa goal strategy. So um, with the visa changes, as you know, there were 5 major changes, and we already met 2 new goals that we have to meet are the paid-in capital, the increase from 5 million yen to 30 million yen, and full-time employee. And we have received clarification that it cannot be 2 part-time employees, it can't be 3, 4, 5 part-time employees. It has to be a minimum of 1 full-time employee. And that, we could talk for a long time about the difficulties with that in a rural area, with an aging population like our area. But, um, looking at our business structure and how many different things we do and how much of our work is seasonal, um, it would it will be difficult for us to hire a full-time person. I'm a lot less worried about hiring a full-time person than I am, meeting the 30 million yen paid in capital, but, um, like, just think about what we do all the time, on any given day, we hop between construction, renovation, being in clean clothes to clean the guest house and or meet guests and scheduling and all of that, beekeeping, farming, uh, and the farming is on, like, rehabbing abandoned land, so we're, like, clearing land or clearing weeds, it's just, like, we hop between all these wildly different things, and so the initial struggle is, like, well, how do we hire a full-time person? Because we do all these things, but you can't expect someone else to be like, "Sure, I will work for you and be a beekeeper and a housekeeper and et cetera, et cetera." Um, so we've had to think about and even a full-time beekeeper would only be seasonal, like you said, so and if we hired a full-time person to clean the guest house, I couldn't keep them busy full-time, it's a big part of my job, it's not a full-time job. Some days if a guest is very clean, if it's only 1 person or 2 people, it might take 90 minutes. If I have a big group or a particularly messy group, it can take 5 hours, but I so it's hard to schedule. It's, it is almost every day in the busy season, it's every single day, but it's not necessarily full-time, uh so we've been thinking, and I've sort of mentioned this earlier about, well, with the tacos, that would be an easy thing to hire someone full time for and say, "You're going to be our full-time restaurant employee." And then I keep doing the guest house, and then Evan keeps doing these. Um,
Or
and then we do all the other things that we do too.
or tortillas, we've been talking about tortillas,
Sure,
or the
yeah.
canned
Or
coffee
yeah,
could
sure. Yeah,
pull.
yeah. Um, so that's sort of been a shift in our mentality is not just how do we get busy enough that we can hire someone. 'Cause we could already use someone's work help full time. It would just be on all kinds of random jobs, and that's just can't do that. So, we've been shifting our mentality and trying to think of, "Okay, we're going from essentially a mom and pop business to, like, a small business, like a real small business," which means that we need to have, a job that we can reasonably expect someone else to do besides us as a full-time job. Um, so that's been one shift in our mentality is thinking about that. Comment says there's a great local bottled coffee brand in Hiroshima. Glass bottles may be easier than cans. That would be great. That would be great. I do love that about honey that it's in the glass jars instead of anything else. That's a good thing to consider for sure. So after all of that, we do have some good news about the, capital, which is the scariest goal. Um, so I've told a few people this, personally. I wanted to make sure and I'm not, there still part of it is unclear. I want to be certain that all of this is going to happen before I present it to you all. But so I will tell you the portion that we are certain about. So the really, really good news is that we have an excellent accountant, and we've been working with him since before we got the start of visa. So we put together our team of professionals, which is our immigration lawyer, our business consultant, who was introduced to us by Imabari City at the very first startup meeting before we got the visa, and then our business consultant introduced us to our accountant. So we've been working with our accountant, um, putting in place a system for me to physically mail him receipts each month. And from day one, before we even got our visa, and then as soon as the business account was set up, what I do each month basically is I send him copies of our business checkbooks, all of our receipts, and make notes about, which category of our business does this go in, invoices, that sort of thing. And I catalog all of our income, and I send him physical paper copies. And then we also do some uploading on Google Drive. Long story short, he also asked from the very beginning for copies of our personal checkbook each month. And at first I was like, okay, I don't really know why, but okay. And so what he's been doing is keeping track of every receipt that I send him. He makes an, in his accounting software, he's noting w- which receipts for our business expenses have come from our business account and which receipts for our business expenses have come from our personal account. Now, prior to our business being incorporated and our business bank account opening, we were doing guest house renovation, and uh, that was a big chunk of our investment was going into renovating the guest house. And a lot of those expenses, all of the expenses before our business account was set up, all of those expenses came from our personal. And at the time, we're just getting started. Uh, I knew that at each visa renewal, we don't have to maintain, at that time the rules were 5 million yen. So at each visa renewal, we don't have to maintain 5 million yen in cash, but we have to maintain a 5 million yen valued business in a combination of cash and assets. And so the fact that we spent a lot of the guest house renovation came out of our personal account, we were fine with because we wanted our business account to stay as good looking as possible for our visa renewal. So I had just sort of thought that, you know, that was done and gone, and that's fine. It didn't come out of the business like there's there's not much of a differentiation in our minds between our business and our personal account, even though it is a separate entity and, business funds can only be spent on business. Guess what? Personal funds can also be spent on business. Well, the good news is that he's been keeping track of all of that, and the reason is he said that at some point, I thought that Benton Homestead would be successful enough that you would then pay yourselves back for those expenses. So it's actually a line item on our fiscal report each year, and it says essentially personal loan from Evan Benton to Benton Homestead. And his big news for us is that we can say Benton, no, we can say Evan Benton forgives that loan from Benton Homestead. I'm saying this wrong. We can essentially say that we don't want that money to be given back to us from Benton Homestead. Please don't consider it a loan. And then that money can be certified as additional paid-in capital. And that adds up to 7 million. So over the course of the last 3 years of our business, We began our business with 5 million yen in capital, and that's what our corporate documents state. And now, because of the personal expenses on the business that our accountant has been very carefully keeping track of, we can go through a process of certifying an additional 7 million yen that's already done and spent as paid in capital. So that will bring us from 5 to 12 out of 30. So we're already starting with a little bit of our goal already made for us thanks to our past selves in the past 3 years,
Yeah.
which is great. Now, in addition to that, there is a little more good news. So, another thing we can do, and this was suggested by our accountant, business consultant, and also our local bank manager. Um, he said we can also gift our properties to Benton Homestead. So the guest house and our house are both in our personal names 50-50. And they think that we can only uh, uh, gift the value of the house at the time of purchase, which at that time the guest house was 1 million yen, and our house and farmlands are 2.8 million yen. So potentially, if we now, so this second portion that involves gifting properties, that does come with about $1,000 fee for the judicial scrivener to file the paperwork to actually change ownership of a property. But we could potentially also in kind donate Benton Guesthouse and our own house to Benton Homestead, and then we would have to pay our business rent each month to live in our own house, um, something like that. But that is another possibility that would be approximately 3 million yen of additional paid-in capital. So, um, both of them require paperwork, and there's also a lot of things to consider that we were, just, informed about in great detail about once our business surpasses the 10 million yen capital mark, we have all kinds of different taxes and things that come into play. So our next meeting with our immigration lawyer, the question is going to be at what point in the next 3 years do we pass that 10 million yen threshold? But basically, at any point in time, we can we have a running tally, of 7 million yen so far, 7 million yen of additional paid-in capital of our own money that's long spent that we can certify towards the goal, plus the possibility of another 3 million yen if we choose to in-kind donate our properties. So that's going from 5 to potentially 12 to potentially 15 million yen out of 30 to start from. And of course, we have received some donations from our GoFundMe that also will become paid in capital. It's a couple of month process for that to happen. And each time we add additional paid in capital, there is a fee. We have to hire someone in addition to our accountant to do this. So we can't just do it like monthly or something. There's a process. And it takes hiring a scrivener to do, and that, of course, comes with a cost. So we're going to do this as few times as possible over the next 3 years. But the GoFundMe donations are on their way to our personal Japanese bank account, and then they will become transferred to our business Japanese bank account at a strategic time. So far, we have received about $6,050 in donations from our GoFundMe, which is fantastic. And that's, I mean, what is that? About 800,000 yen? So just under a million yen from donations. which is amazing. So we are starting this process um, partway there. So we're as of today, we still only have 5 million yen paid in capital, but we have the means of potentially increasing that by 7 or 10 million yen plus the
But
donations.
yeah, and we had with our meeting with our business consultant, we sort of like laid out a plan for how we're gonna incrementally uh, contribute that capital in time for the 2028 deadline that we have to meet. Because turns out that once we come over 10 million yen, we have to pay more in taxes.
Yeah.
So we figured out this year we're going to contribute up to 9.99 million
Well,
yen.
that's our proposal. We're going to run that past our immigration lawyer.
Yeah, that's our proposal. So
Yeah.
yes,
So we have to, according to the visa announcement, when they announced all the changes, they said that we need to show significant progress each year for the next 3 years at our renewals. Um, thank you, Stanley.
wow, thanks.
Thank you, 10 euros. Thank you very much. That will also go directly towards this goal. Um, so our big decision is for at what time we implement these paid in capital increases because so our question for our immigration lawyer will be, well, if our next renewal, which will be fall 2026, do we go up to 9.9 million yen and not pass that tax threshold yet, knowing that we could potentially go up to 12, or if we go through the process of gifting properties, 15. Do we just do that right now? Just day one, just try and get that done, and then we will be, in a higher corporate tax bracket for the next few years.
Wow,
Oh, thank you. Mega Traps, another $10. Thank you very much.
and also thanks for sharing the GoFundMe, or
Oh,
we'll share. Yeah.
yeah. Thank you very much. Very helpful. So that is why I'm feeling optimistic. So we still have a long ways to go, um, but potentially, we can bring ourselves up from 5 million yen to about 15 million yen to start, um, and then that gives us, instead of having to come up with 25 million yen in the next 2.75 years, uh, maybe 10 to 15, so, it's Alex says pretty interesting accounting. We did verify that this is all, uh, I guess, standard. I mean, it's legitimate, considered paid in capital, and it's just a certification process. So we're just incredibly thankful that our accountant has been doing that from day one, and that I didn't say like, "Well, I don't wanna give you copies of my personal checkbook, like, that's personal." I just figured, well, it's Japan, I mean, they know everything about everything. We already had to provide them like, years of bank statements in order to get our business account opened and funded with our corporate capital. We literally gave them, like, 2.5 years of bank statements of both of our American bank accounts. Um,
But that's
so
the bank, the government stuff.
I know, but I'm not it's like, well, we have nothing to hide, so might as well if he wants. I don't know why he wants our personal checkbook, but I'm really glad that I didn't question that and just said, "Okay, you're the professional," because he is the professional, and now 3 years later, because he's done that, that's going to, give us a little step, more than a little step towards our goal, and that's money that we already spent, so that's us getting ourselves to the goal. And so that's less that we have to stress about for the next 3 years, and less that we have to try and crowdfund, and less just obviously, 15 million yen is less than 25 million yen, so it's, it's good to start a little bit ahead of.
And Julie's asking about investors. We're open to investors. The, we've had we have had some pretty serious offers from investors. And the problem has been that what they want in return has not been something that we're comfortable with. On the one hand, either they want us to sponsor their. We've had some offers to have us sponsor their visas somehow, which with the new uh, with the new changes and the amount of increased scrutiny that we are under as business owners, we're just like, yeah, not going to do that. And then the other thing is they want some sort of like a board of directors type of control over the business, and I mean, I don't know what that even means, to be honest. But I was like, for example, I was sitting in the bank one day going through one of these processes for the loan last month, and I had been there for like 2 hours just going through these paperwork processes, and I was thinking, gosh, would an investor first of all, I am under so much like oversight from the government and from the banks, and now that we have a subsidy, so I have all these people telling me how I need to run my business, and now if I'm going to add another person telling me how to run my business, no, that's just not feasible. And then I was just wondering, honestly, would an investor appreciate the amount of time that it has taken us to do all of this work? Like, it's just because it's frankly unbelievable in my opinion. And I just, yeah, would they put money up for that and just say, yeah, I mean, some sort of an arrangement where they just give us money as sort of a loan would be work for us, or
Yeah, and I don't even know how that works. I don't
or
even know if that would help. I don't even yeah, I mean, we're considering investor route, but I don't know. I have yet in my mind to figure out how an investor relationship would work where we could actually give them some sort of benefit without giving them either part control of our business or most people want like a sponsored visa in return. And like that's just not possible. Cody says using investments for visa sponsorship would be pretty sketchy, and I agree. And we don't do sketchy. So yeah, it's just so it's just a matter of figuring out, this last little bit, which is,
yeah.
10 to 15 million yen.
And then JJ says Planet Dow. I think I've heard of that. Is that I don't know. I'll look into that. Yeah. Um, we it's shaping up to where we're not going to need that much money, so we'll just see if it makes it so more money allows us to get to an easier lifestyle quicker. That's it's more about needing. It's less about needing the money and more about more money allowing us to do more quicker at
Mhm.
this point.
'Cause "Oh, we have 3 years." Well, we're already into the 3 years. So it's October 2028. It's already been 3 months since the changes were announced.
How was the local reception for the tacos and Mexican cuisine? I think it was really good.
Mhm.
I mean, honestly, we're a tourism area, so we're not really catering to locals. It's just what it is. We're catering to tourists, and so I feel like a lot of people. We had a big sign that sign, and they could see it across the street, and they came over and go, "Oh, tacos!" and
Mhm.
they were really excited. But that assumed that they knew what a taco was, right? So
Well, we did get some locals. We had quite a bit of local support. So a lot of our neighbors and friends came out to get tacos. But for the most part, most taco sales went to Japanese tourists here for New Year's. And we did talk with a local business person who we were considering a taco location would be next to their shop. And they had an interesting conversation with us that, uh, they wanted to make sure that we didn't go in next door and sell, super low priced tacos and that we kept the, um I don't know how to word that, but, targeting targeting tourists because that's what the other businesses in that area were also targeting, tourist prices as opposed to local prices. So there is, there's a big shift on the island. There's a major shift. A lot of news has come out on the islands just in the last few months about upcoming projects that are about to be built or in the process of being built or about to open. There's a lot going on the Shimanami Kaido Islands, and so the tourism here, both Japanese and inbound, is just continuing to increase.
Yeah,
Um,
honestly, there's a lot of opportunities for investors here, and I don't know if I would I would not do a business manager visa right now for sure. But if I knew someone who had a business that was already running, it just I would be looking for ways to capitalize on the opportunities that are shaping up here. So thinking about that.
JJ says not too cheap for visitors, but don't want to outprice locals is a big issue now in Japan. Yeah, we definitely think about that all the time with all different parts of our business. Honey, with the guest house, and then potentially upcoming with a restaurant. I definitely think about that with the retro goods. Like, if I sold this tea set in Japan, everybody's grandma's house has that tea set they could just go get for free, or, the going rate for a vintage tea set in Japan is X number of dollars, and then if I sell that overseas, it's like 5 to 10 times that price. So all aspects of our business, we're constantly thinking about, do we target tourists? Do we target locals? And how can we meet both? Um, so it is, I mean, that could be a whole conversation itself too, and it's a conversation that we have all the time. Um, I don't have the perfect answer for that either, but, it's definitely on our minds. Cody says when we bike through the Shimanami Kaido, there was some tourist-focused places to stop in and eat at. I mean, yeah, tons. Yeah, there's a lot of the new shops opening, depending on which island you go to. It sort of feels like, well, I mean, certain islands you can tell if they're shifting their focus towards tourism or if they're, still focusing towards locals. But a lot of Japanese couples and people are moving here to open shops, and most of those new shops seem to be focused towards tourists. Um, so it's a shifting time, and there's a lot to consider, a lot to be careful about. You want to try and meet both groups, which are quite different. Even Japanese tourists versus Japanese locals. There's a big difference between that as well. And then when you start talking about foreign tourists who are, have the weak yen to wherever they're coming from, um, there's that makes the gap much bigger. And Cody says, by the way, the honey was excellent. Finally cracked into it the other day. Thank you so much. We really enjoyed watching your video. I shared that on our page, but you had one of the better bike videos that I've seen. I actually enjoyed watching your video as you were cycling the Shimanami. JJ asks, any good quality empty houses around you still for people wanting to move in as entrepreneurs or new residents?
Oh
I would
yeah,
say on all the islands, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, on Omishima, if you think that peak population on this small island was 26,000 and it's now 6,000. There's lots of houses in all the neighborhoods on this island, plus all the other islands.
and there's a new real estate agent on Ikuchichima, Retro
Mhm,
Fudosan.
mhm.
Met him a couple times. Nice guy. So, yeah, hopefully it's getting easier for people to connect buyers and sellers because, I mean, there's I mean, like, JJ, I know you know this, but there's just tons and tons and tons of houses available. Well, there's tons and tons of houses, right? But the availability of those houses is the issue. So I'm walking Bosco around and seeing all these dilapidated houses, and I'm realizing that, yeah, the demand for the houses is still I don't know, like a tenth of the supply. So what we're gonna see is there's plenty of beautiful houses, but I think only like the top 10% of those houses are actually gonna find a buyer to stay there,
Well,
unfortunately.
because of course, there's a reason there's so many abandoned houses in Japan, and part of that, like you were saying the other day, is that, you can't purchase it because the you have to have the signatures of people, and they can't find the heir of the person in order to be able to sell the house because they have to inherit it first and then sell it. So part of the reason there is the Akiya issue in Japan is because of its own paperwork process. And, also, a lot of the houses come with farmland, and that introduces great difficulty for both Japanese and foreign buyers. So there's probably a lot of reason that some of the nicer houses that are empty still haven't sold. But at some point, the focus to the Shimanami Kaido area and other parts of Japan, not just our part, um, is increasing in some rural areas.
Marcus says it would be interesting to write it again. In 2018, it pretty much felt like you were left to yourself, but having so much more along the way, by the sounds of it, would be interesting. I think so. Again,
Mhm.
we've never ridden the Shimanami Kaido. We've ridden as far as
Sunset
Sunset
Beach.
Beach, which is great. I think it's just better. I mean, I doesn't. It's tough sometimes driving with all the cyclists on the road, but I don't think on the bridges. I mean, it would feel like crowded per se. Like,
Mhm.
and it's still not. There's still not a lot to do on Omishima. I mean, it's a great place to visit, but it's still like we do struggle to find places for our guests to eat, which is why we make reservations for all of our guests at the local restaurants. So it's not like we're like crowded by
Mhm.
any means, but yeah, hopefully, I think I feel like it's well, I mean, it's far from being like far from being played out. Basically, it's up and coming.
And that goes for lots of rural areas in Japan. Like, if uh, there's a lot of people moving, we can spread that out amongst all the rural areas of Japan.
Yeah, well, there's not not enough people moving to go around all of the rural areas. So
Yeah.
one of the beautiful things about the Shimanami Kaido is with the bridges and the climate and just the beauty of it that it has a lot of good reasons to move here.
So JJ is asking if we can put interns to work. She's teaching university students once a week, and they're looking for internships in February or March.
Yeah,
Not sure we can in February. Well, I mean,
I can find something for them to
maybe.
do. I'll be in
Yeah,
charge of that. Yeah, we can if they want to do shikui. We don't know how to do shikui, but if they want to learn from people who just are going to learn from YouTube, we could have to work on that. And then farm stuff, I can always have people go and chop down trees or
yeah. I don't know if
run the
we're
wood
ready for
chipper
that,
for a
but we
day.
can we can talk about it. I mean, yeah, definitely in the busier season. I don't know. It's a matter of if you bring someone in and then, does it slows your work down because you're learning and teaching someone, and we really have to work through February. But I'm also not gonna turn down an intern for a day or something. So I don't know. We can talk about it. It's a good idea. Um, you user
Investors who want to invest into your business in exchange for a visa is literally the kind of shady business the country wants to get rid of.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I agree.
I mean,
I
yeah.
do agree. Just are not interested.
See, the thing is, it's with our position here, like we have to have a full time employee, and it's just hard. First of all, to find full time employees because we're in a depopulated area of the country, right? So we're already considering like, okay, when we hire a person, how are we going to get that person to move here? And I mean, those people are moving here. Don't get me wrong, um, but that's an issue is just finding people. So if we're able to hire people from outside the country because we speak English, that's gonna be a it's gonna be a good thing, and it's for our business and for the community. It's just it is what it is, you know. So uh, and I do not want to solely that by hiring people solely for the process of getting a visa.
Absolutely.
Like, I want to
It would have to be the right person. It would have to be a benefit to our business and the community. Um,
and, back when we were doing consulting, back when that still existed, people would say, I mean, if a person said that they were coming and they wanted to move to Kyoto, I'd be like, "Okay, I don't know anything about Kyoto, but I'll do what I can." But if a person would say, "I wanna move to the Shimanami Kaido," I would say, "Yes, please do. Move here right now, and we
Open a
will."
restaurant, please.
Yes,
Open a
please. We will.
restaurant that's open on Tuesdays or Fridays.
Yeah, open a restaurant, and we will send you customers. We will literally call the customers and call you, and we will, like, literally hold the customer's hand and walk them from our guest house to
Yeah,
your restaurant. That will literally happen,
yeah.
okay?
I
And
I drove yesterday's guest to go to the cake
the
shop.
cake, yeah.
JJ says, "I know you do for guests, but offering guided tours around your neighborhood and island would also be another idea to try." That would be fun. That'd be I would talking, further into the future when I get, the photography going again, that's what I did in New Orleans in the French Quarter, is I did walking tours in the French Quarter, and then we'd stop and take portraits along the way. So I would like to get smaller versions, something like that here. I don't have a French Quarter to walk through where there's lots of cool businesses, but we could do sure, like Oklahoma's little main street. Um, at some point, I think that would be great, and you would be a good resource for that. You have much more tour guide experience than I do, but so definitely interested in your ideas.
Um, I I was learning I heard this a long time ago, cigar factories back in, like, Cuba in the, early 20th century, um, they would hire people to come in and give the workers lectures, like college lectures, or they would have, like, singers come in and perform for them just to keep them entertained while they were rolling cigars, and I always thought that was a really interesting idea. Um, that's how it used to be, like, people actually had to be enticed into factories to come and work for them, and, like, so I'm working in this orange factory right now, and it's like the first couple hours are fun, it's like a series of, like, mini games, um, it and then after, like, 4 hours, it's like, "Okay, I'm done," but, so if I've always liked that idea of, you spread out the the stuff people don't wanna do amongst more people, and then you give people a variety of stuff to do, and part of the time they're outside, part of the time they're indoors, and people are a lot happier that way. Just something I've always thought was really.
Well, we're about 15 minutes over time, and Bosco really needs a walk, so maybe we can start wrapping it up here. JJ says she'd love to work on that with us if we're interested in learning how to do a tour, to introduce neighbors' house and other businesses. She thinks it's popular. That would be great. I think that would work in really well with what we're already doing. Um, yeah. 'Cause I'm already doing so much communication with every single guest before they arrive as far as restaurant reservations, so I send them a list of every restaurant that's open within walking distance and a brief description, before they even arrive, offer to make reservations, starting about a week in advance, and so I could also just sort of add to my message, a note about if they wanna schedule a tour, of course, it's a little difficult to plan because 85% or more of our guests are cyclists, and, a lot of people cycle at different speeds, and a lot of people don't know exactly what time they're going to arrive, and the arrival window can be, like, 2 or 3 windows off of their initial estimate, um, but, yeah, I think there is also some potential there for sure, so thanks for bringing that up too.
Factory electric, yeah,
What does that mean?
that's the last comment.
I
As
don't
someone
know.
who reads in a factory, lector means reader, so
You're talking
so
to what does that mean?
it's in reference to what I just said about having someone come in and read performances in a factory to keep the workers entertained. Yeah, so
Okay. Alright. Well, thanks for the really good chat, guys. This was kind of a rough month. We had a lot to cover. Bad news, good news, kinds of news. Um, thank you for the 3 super chats that we got. That's all gonna go directly towards our visa goals.
And yeah, thanks Mega Traps and Stanley and JJ.
Thank you very much appreciated. Thanks for the great conversation, and we'll keep up these monthly live chats moving forward. It's a good opportunity for us. You know, this month we had I think our maximum account watching was 18 at once. You know, so we have a small community here, and it's just us talking with you guys. Most of y'all in the chat are regulars here, so I think we'll keep it up. It's nice for us to sit here and get chewed on by Bosco for 2 hours, but, thanks for being part of our community. The cats are fighting now too, so we gotta go. It's chaos. It's chaos over here. Alright, guys. Wish us luck for February. Hope everybody has a great rest of your January, and, we'll have another chat here in a month or so. So, see you then.